Hello, students. Hello, students. Hello,
Yes,
students.
sir.
Read out the lessons, units. First, you read out the units. The fifth unit is Rise of Muslim League and Hindu Mahasabha. Is it correct? Rise of Samya.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Correct.
Rise of Muslim League and Hindu Mahasabha. That is fifth unit, no?
Yes, sir.
Then seventh, what is sixth unit?
First World War and Home Rule Movement.
Then seventh,
Constitutional reforms.
constitutional reform. So means here the fifth unit is rise of Hindu Mahasabha, rise of Muslim League and Hindu Mahasabha, and sixth unit is the so World War I and Home Rule Movement. Then seventh unit is constitutional reforms. No,
Yes, sir.
right? Yes, right. I am right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. On these three topics we are going to discuss today. Rise of Hindu Mahasabha. Rise of Hindu Mahasabha. Why Hindu Mahasabha? Rise of Muslim League. Rise of Muslim League and Hindu Mahasabha. The rise of Muslim League and Hindu Mahasabha is because Hindus and Muslims, Hindus learned the English education, thus a strong middle class, educated middle class emerged among the Hindus. But whereas in the Muslims, they themselves felt that they were the rulers earlier. They were the rulers earlier, so that they did not learn English education. So that Muslims are backwarded in acquiring the English education. When whoever is backward in acquiring the English education, they will not get jobs in the government. Because Macaulay introduced English education in India, he wants to get a middleman between the English speakers, means Europeans and Indians, so that that type of knowledge Muslim did not develop, so that they did not enter into the government jobs, so that they were backwarded. So that the backward Muslims, through the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, encouraged by the Britishers not to join Indian National Congress or Hindu bodies, show support to the British rule and get favoritism from Britishers and licenses and employment reservation. That is way the Muslims, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan asked the Muslim not to join Indian National Congress, which was demanding representative institution and responsible government. Representative institution, responsible government means majority Hindu rule. So that Hindu rule is harm to the Muslims. So that is reason Muslims did not joined into the Indian National Congress, which was a body, all India wide body, gathering the Indian people's opinion, gathering the Indian people's opinion and representing these opinions to the government authorities, thus demanding continuously introduce the democratic institutions in India like British Parliament. But the Muslims were, due to the educational backward, and also some other differences are also there between the Muslims and the Hindus. What are the some other? Muslims are the eaters of the cow mutton, but Hindus are treating the cow as a holy animal. So this is also another one. And Muslims and Muslims calendar opposite to the Hindu calendar. See, what is Amavasya treating by is a unfavorable to the Hindus. So, and also habits of eating and other religious prayers, some other every day Friday they are going to the masjid, and Hindus are worshipping different gods. Then so this is liberalism is there in Hindus, but whereas so that type of liberalism is not there in the among the Muslims. This is why Muslims and Hindus are culturally and habits and also educational backward. All these points are got an opportunity to stay outside of the Indian National Congress. And also the Lord Minto Marley reforms given separate electorates and communal electorates to the Muslims. And also encouraged, that is 1909. 1906, Muslim League organization from Dhaka, Nawabs, Dhaka landlords, and some Indian, some educated Muslims combinedly formed a separate organization that is called Rise of Muslim League in 1906, representing the Muslim issues, give representation to the Muslims, reserved representation to the Muslims. So that is why Lord Minto given what representative is communal electorates and are Muslims given separate quota in the Executive Council of Governor, Executive Council of Viceroy. That is separate provision is created. So thus this is a separate electorates, communal electorates laid the foundation for the division of India. Then Indian National Congress, which was split in the 1907 Surat session as moderates and extremists. All the extremists were put behind the jails. All the moderates were demanded the representative institutions in India. But to satisfy these moderates, Minto Marley reforms are introduced. Means divide and rule policy and carrot and stick policy. Carrot means reddish root. Giving to the people who are crying for the representative institution, particularly Indian National Congress, so that the reddish root carrot is giving carrot, and whoever is not listening, those who are arrested and put behind the jails or behind the bars, behind the put in and pushed into the jails. This is the policy followed by Britishers for continuance of their rule in India. So this was the policy was continued by the Britishers authorities. Then in 1916, then by that period, Gopala Krishna Gokhale, leader of the moderates is died. No more. Then this man, Balaganadhar Tilak, who was in the Mandalay jail, 6 years term of jail is after 6 years of term of jail, he came back to India. Then this was welcomed by Congress because there was no stalwart moderate Congress leaders. So that is the reason the extremist leaders were all welcomed. Balaganadhar Tilak headed the Congress. Thus, moderates and extremists are reunited. Where at Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh, Lucknow pact, an agreement reached with moderates and extremists, and they reunited the Congress. Then Muslim League also joined and come together for an agreement in Lucknow Pact. In that pact, Congress means Congress, now united Congress, moderates and extremists are militants. Both are united and carrying the Congress organization under Balaganadhar Tilak, the stalwart by that period. So accepted the communal electorates and our Muslim separate representation is accepted by the Congress in the Lucknow session. That is the blunder mistake done by the Congress, accepting the separate electorate or communal electorates to the Muslims. That was a blunder mistake done by the Congress. So this, once it is accepted, that has continued. Communal seats is continued for the Muslims. So this is way the Congress did blunder mistake accepting the communal electorates or communal reservation to the Muslims. So thus all were united, moderates and extremists and Muslims are united, but Hindu Mahasabha 1915, when Muslims are all gathered under the Muslim Nawabs, representing the Muslim issues and getting favoritism to the Muslims, then same time Hindus are also organized in 1915 and 16, organized Hindu Mahasabha for the interest of Hindus. Hindu interest and Muslim interest, they are now treating separate, so that for the protection of Hindu interest, Hindu Mahasabha is also organized, came into existence or born. So this way, Muslim organization is a separate organization and Hindu Mahasabha is a separate organization for protection of, protecting rights of Hindus, Muslim organization for protecting the rights of the Muslims. So thus two organizations came into existence in the Indian politics. Thus these two are almost continuously rivaling and conflicting, campaigning each other. So this is the rise of Muslim League and Hindu Mahasabha. Hindu Mahasabha working for the promotion of Hindu interest. Muslim Mahasabha, Muslim League is working for the promotion of Muslim interest. This is way two organizations are came into existence. Now, these two organizations is born out in the Indian politics by when Bal Gangadhar Tilak came from Mandalay jail, Lala Lajpat Rai, and then again Bipin Chandra Pal, extremists, already this under the Tilak leadership. They were Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Arvind Ghosh, and this way again, there was a World War 1918, 1914 to 1918, World War I started. See, that is now we are entering into the unit 6th. So unit 6th, World War I, 1914 to 1918, World War I started. World War I between the years 1914 to 1918. World War I, the Allies Axis. Allies means England, France, and America. Even sometimes Russia, also one side, Germany, Italy, Austria-Hungary, Germany, Italy, and Turkey. Turkey, Germany, Italy, and Turkey is other side. France, England, America, and also Russia is one side. This way, World War I began in the World Wide War. That is so that it is called World War I. Then World War I is began under that circumstances to get the Indian support. To get the Indian support, Woodrow Wilson, American president, or a British Parliament pressurized the English authorities in India to get support of the Indians. Where India is a big country, to use the Indian resources for the war purpose, get the cooperation of the Indians. That was way, that is why the British authorities, to get the cooperation of the Indians in the defeating the Germans. Germans are what type of war? Blitzkrieg war, means like lightning war. Easily defeated France, which was ally of the England, France, and thus the Italy. So the Turkey was. Meanwhile, what is happening? Russia defeated this side, and thus in World War I, who is in advance? Germany is in advance, defeating the France and England. England was crying for help. So under these circumstances, to get the support of the Indians, under these circumstances, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, unbeaten, by seeing this situation, they demanded the home rule, self-rule in India. Then only the Indians will give full support to the England. Full support to the England. Otherwise, they won't support. That is why Bal Gangadhar Tilak formed the Home Rule Leagues. Home Rule League in Maharashtra campaigned with his newspapers, Marathi, English newspaper, Kesari. So Kesari, a Marathi newspaper, thus he was campaigning in Western Maharashtra and also other parts of India, in Eastern in northern India, Balagangadhar Tilak is established home rule leagues, campaigned for giving home rule, self-rule to the Indians. Then only Indians will support to the Britishers in the World War. So then not only Balagangadhar Tilak, Ani Besant from Madras also formed in 1917. Ani Besant was elected as a president of the Indian National Congress. Under the Ani Besant, the Vigyan Samaj leader, Theosophical Society leader, Ani Besant started home rule leagues like Irish home rule, self-rule to introduce India. Then only Indians will support to the Britishers in all the way. So that is why home rule leagues established by the Ani Besant through her newspapers, Commonweal and New India, through her two newspapers, Commonweal and New India newspapers. She has, from Madras, she has campaigned for home rule, self-rule. Balagangadhar Tilak campaigned for self-rule. So under the circumstances, under the pressure of the home rule leagues were formed in Madras by Ani Besant from the Theosophical Society headquarters Adayar, and also from the Anantapur area, so that way the Ani Besant campaigning in Madras presidency, in the Bombay presidency campaigning by Balagangadhar Tilak, self-rule is introduced. Then only Indians will support to the English people in the World War wholeheartedly. Then they will, then that way English people will get victory in the World War. Otherwise, Indians will not support. Why should Indians support to the Britishers? British war is an international war for the interest of the English. Why should Indians support? That was the question. That was the question. That was the question leveled by Balagangadhar Tilak, Ani Besant and other leaders who in all over India, home rule movement is, self-rule movement is reached to the peak stage. Reached to the peak stage. Everywhere this agitation for self-rule. Under these circumstances, the Ani Besant and her right-hand man, left-hand man was arrested in a Uta command, in a house arrest, not to move out of the house. House arrest made, Ani Besant made house arrest in the where in Uta command. So in Madras presidency, she was not to leave house. So that is way interned. Interned means not to move out of the house. Then same way, Balagangadhar Tilak also not to enter other areas except in the Maratha area, Maharashtra areas. Outturned, interned and outturned, not to enter outside. So that is not to enter in and outside, not to campaign outside. That is way these two movements of these two leaders were restricted. Movements of two leaders are restricted for the campaigning of home rule, self-rule. Then, however, the movement is picked up. The all over India, the movement, the home rule movement is it is in heading It is, so people who are participating, agitating, dharnas for home rule started. So under these circumstances, to get the support. So though they were house arrested, in spite of that, the movement is going on. So under these circumstances, Britishers in British Parliament, that time Montague was the secretary, Chelmsford was viceroy. Here in the 1917, when World War going on, Chelmsford was viceroy, and the Montague was cabinet minister looking after Indian affairs. That fellow, because of the Woodrow Wilson pressure, American president pressure, the Montague announced in the British Parliament, Britishers are going to introduce self-rule in India. And that self-rule in what way? Slowly in India, progressive self-rule is introduced in India. What way? Progressive realization by this 1917. What happened? Russia withdrawn from the World War, which was waging from the side of the England. Russia withdrawn. Now, England was frightening. England was in a position. Already French government was a French nation. Some half of the nation, French nation, was conquered by Germans. And also, Italy was also conquered. Austria-Hungary, this way, these opponent to the England was in a positive side, and England was in a negative side in the war. Why we call it is World War? World War means it is occurred throughout the world, and also it is occurred on the seas through the naval power, and also it is occurred through the aeroplane and military forces. So this foot soldiers, aeroplanes, and naval forces, and all over the globe, this war is occurred. So that submarines, are involved. So that it is called World War War. World War means it is used the weapons, guns, and 3 spaces, means land space, air space, and sea space. 3 spaces are used in the entire world, so that it is called World War. Then in the World War, Britain, Germany is bombing on the England, bombing on England. So England was frightening. Woodrow Wilson pressurized England to give more concession to the Indians, to get the more cooperation from the Indians, because India is a big country. Lot of food grains has to come to the soldiers. Indian cooperation is much needed. So that is the reason pressurized. Under this pressurization, Montague, Secretary of State or Cabinet Minister, announced in the British Parliament. See, British Parliament is introducing what is representative institutions in India, representative institutions, democratic institutions in India. British government is going to introduce representative institutions based on progressive realization. Means progressive realization means by seeing step after step, not sudden. Ashwadhamataha Kunjaraha. What is this? Ashwadhama, to kill the Dronacharya in Mahabharata war. Ashwadhamataha Dharmaraja pronounced Ashwadhamata in a small voice. Kunjaraha Ashwadhama, an elephant. Kunjaraha means an elephant died. When the Kunjaraha word is pronouncing by Dharmaraja, a drums beaten, that was not listened by Dronacharya. Thus Dronacharya, when he has listened the word, his son is died, then he is laid down his or is astras. Then Dronacharya was killed by Arjuna. So this is way Lord Mountbatten she announced Britishers are going to introduce the representative institutions in India based on the progressive realization, means step by step, not sudden. This was announced. So then Home Rule movement is, due to this announcement, Home Rule movement is withdrawn by the Annie Besant and Balagangadhar Tilak. As a result of this announcement, the 1919 reforms, Montague and Chelmsford reforms, is announced. Montague and Chelmsford reforms. That is 1919, the reform. 1909 reforms, communal electorates introduced in India. 1919, Government of India Act, the reforms are introduced as a result of the announcement. Then by this way, the Home Rule League, Home Rule Movement, World War I is 6th chapter is over. Now 7th chapter is constitutional reforms. Constitutional reforms, 7th chapter or 7th unit. Constitutional reforms. What is that constitutional reforms? See, Britishers or East India Company, when East India Company became the rulers of India, Giant Stock Company, then the Robert Clive, Warren Hastings period, they followed war and conquest policy, waging war and conquering the territories. And to manage the Indian East India Company affair, the Giant Stock Company shareholders who are at England, those are called board of directors. The board of directors looking after the Indian administration, and appointing governors, where Madras governor is appointed from the company shareholders themselves are elected, a board elected. See, shareholders are many. Shareholders are who are invested money, those are all called shareholders. Shareholders to running the company, Giant Stock Company, East India Company, a group of small members are elected to carry the administration of India, that is called board of directors, shareholder directors. A board is elected members by the investors. So that body is appointing the officers from the England. Governors are appointed through governors and other officers from England. Upper layer officers from the England, lower level from the Indians taken lower level. Thus administration carried in a different way. Madras governor is ruling over the Madras presidency. Bengal governor ruling over the Bengal area, Bengal presidency. Bombay governor ruling over the Bombay presidency. So thus three presidential governors separate rule, but under the control of board of directors, under the control of board of directors of the company. But now what happened? The board of directors, see, this way there was no cooperation between the Madras governor and Bombay governor and Bengal governor. So that is the reason East India Company board company introduced reforms, constitutional reforms, is that Regulating Act 1773, Regulating Act. What is that Regulating Act? Regulating the mission of the Administrative Mission of India. Introducing Regulating Act. What was that? Bengal governor is supreme governor. Supreme. Madras governor, Bombay governor are subordinates to the Bengal governor. Thus, Bengal governor is called as a Governor General. Governor General. But Madras governor is governor, but Bombay governor is governor. These two are subordinate to the Bengal Governor General. Thus, Warren Hastings, first Governor General of India, and Regulating Act, he became full powers with his council, means helping assistants in his executive council, and orders of the Bengal governor and his executive council is supreme. That is a unified administration system weaved out in India by the East India Company. Then thereafter, this type of mechanism is continued. Then 1857 revolt, when it is occurred, then company rule is ended, British Parliament rule is introduced, the company rule is ended. British Parliament rule, then Queen Victoria Proclamation 1858. British Parliament rule, a cabinet minister, means Minto Marley. Marley is the cabinet minister. Montague, Viceroy. Montague, Secretary of State. Marley, Montague, Chelmsford is Viceroy. Like this, the Viceroy means a Queen's representative or Parliament representative looking after the whole India is called Viceroy or Governor General of India. Who is Governor General? Bengal governor has become Governor General of India or Viceroy of 1858 Queen's Proclamation Act, British Parliament representative. Then in England, a missionary is there with 15 members, a cabinet minister looking after the Indian affairs, that is called a cabinet minister, is arranged looking after the Indian affairs in India. So that is cabinet minister. Secretary of State, that cabinet ministry is called Secretary of State and a body. So this is way the administration of the East India Company is carrying by, thus the administration, thus Minto Marley. Minto was the Viceroy, Marley was the Secretary of State, Cabinet Minister. So this is way in India, because the Indian National Congress and Indians are demanding the self-rule, home rule, and also in democratic institutions, so that slowly democratic institutions started introducing in India. That is 1861 or 1892 Councils Act. Then 1909 Minto-Morley reforms. In that Minto-Morley reforms, Indian representatives are increased. Where? In the Viceroy's Executive Council and Governor's Executive Council. And then still, who are the majority? Official majorities remain in the 1909. And also, representatives is not based on the adult franchise, not based on the voting right, based on the sectional interest. Section means business section interest. Then the caste wise interest, communal wise interest, class wise class in interest. We representatives are chosen in the 1909. But after 1909, 1919 reforms. 1919 reforms are introduced. In this, what is that? In this, still more representatives are at governor's level. Indians were taking into the sharing the power in the assembly and also in the parliament, more representatives in the assembly.
Sir, what was the cause for the Montagu Change Flood 1919?
See, it is audible. See, 1919 reforms introduced increased Indian members at the provincial level, at central level, at provincial level. Diarchy is introduced, dual government at provincial level. Provincial level, Indians are majority. What is your doubt? What is your doubt? Students, are you following my lecture? Are you following? So, 1919 reforms, that is Government of India Act. See, why sound is coming from your side? Mute yours. So, then 7 members are there. See. Dilshad, see, 1919 reforms is that at provincial level, Indian members are increased. Indian members at provincial level means Madras province, Indian members are, legislative members are increased and elected, first time elected through the vote. And but here in Madras, Bombay and Calcutta, and at Calcutta another one is that Viceroy, Parliament is also there at Calcutta. Viceroy's Executive Council. Thus, Indian members are increased at provincial level. What was the importance is that 2 governments means diarchy, dual government at the majority Indians at provincial level, dual government means double government in the provinces means some of the portfolios is under the control of governor, direct control of the governor. They were chosen by the governor only. Some of the portfolios of the ministry is under the control of Indians. They were responsible to the assembly, provincial assembly, provincial provincial legislative assembly. They were responsible. Who? Indian ministry is responsible. But governor under the ministry which were working under the governor was no way responsible to the provincial legislators. See, the ministry which were enjoying under the governor is that those portfolios are given to those persons are very important portfolios are given, put up under the governor ministries, ministries, some of the ministries put up under the governor control through the ministers. Those ministers are finance, law and order, finance and some, what is income getting, income generating, key portfolios are put up under the governor's control. Only expenditure and collecting the money from the people, these portfolios are given to the Indian ministries. This is called dual government, double government in India under the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, double government is introduced. Double government at the provinces. These, the revenue collection and health, education, which are needed, the money, those portfolios are given to the Indians without money, without allocation of the money. Money is not allocated. Collection is, Indians are the collecting the money, but sending the money to the other ministry which were under the governor. So the expenditure departments were given to the Indian ministry. Earning departments were and key departments were put up under the control of governor, ministers. Those ministers no way responsible for the provincial legislation. But these expenditure, minister health and education, expenditure, meeting needed ministry is responsible. So this is way double government is introduced at the provincial level. These are the constitutional reforms. That is seventh lesson, the constitutional reforms. From first reform is that Regulating Act, then Pitt's India Act, then 1909 Minto-Morley reforms.
Sir,
Then
I have, sir.
1919 Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. These are the constitutional reforms. Right? Anything else? Yes. What is your question?
Sir,
Narendra.
what was the cause for the Montagu-Chelmsford reform, sir? 1919.
1919
What was the cause for Montagu-Chelmsford?
Cause is that here in India, that home rule agitation, self-rule agitation was going on by Balagangadhar Tilak and theosophical leader Annie Besant. Throughout India, home rule, self-rule movement is agitation is going on against the British rule. That is one cause. And another cause is that to introduce the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms is that Britishers were facing defeat in the World War in the hands of Germany. Then Woodrow Wilson, American president, pressurizing the British parliament or British ruler or British parliamentarian or British government of England, pressurizing on England to get proper cooperation from India. And the war crisis, war World War I crisis. England facing crisis of defeat. So under these circumstances, Russia withdrawn from the World War. Russian Revolution took place in Russia. So Russia withdrawn from World War I. The under Lenin, Bolshevik revolution is broke up in Russia. So Russia withdrawn, supporting to the England from World War. Russia defeated. Everywhere Russia defeated when it is entered into the World War on the side of the England. Then France defeated. England is only one country struggling with a hard way, very hard way struggling. So defeat of England is appearing under these circumstances. To get proper cooperation of Indians for military needs, what was needed from India, food grains were needed for military and Indian cooperation. So that is needed. That is due to this, satisfy the home rule agitators to get proper cooperation from the Indians. The Montague-Chelmsford reforms are introduced in India, right? These are the causes for introducing the reforms in India. See, introducing the reforms in India, from the beginning, Indian National Congress, when it is formed from 1885, from that onwards, pressurizing on the British government of India and British government of England, introduced the representative institutions, responsible government in India, continuously demanding, that is moderates face through constitutional method or begging method followed for 20 years. Then after begging method, this begging method becoming waste, not giving anything by the Britishers of Indian authorities or the England authorities. So that Swadeshi, boycott, burn foreign movement of militant nationalism broke out. But militant nationalism is suppressed by arresting all the leaders and put behind the bars, put in the jail. But to thus satisfy the moderates who believe in the constitutional method, for them Minto-Marley reforms are introduced. Minto-Marley reforms, one side is satisfying the moderates, other side is satisfying the Muslims. Divide and rule policy, separating the Muslims from the Hindus. And this is the way. These are all causes the Indian National Congress continuously, or other Indian intellectuals of India, moderates or extremists or other educated class of India, continuously demanding representative institutions, introduce representation institutions in India. So due to this World War situation, England faces crisis of defeat, and Woodrow Wilson pressurizing on British government, and Russia withdrawn from the World War I, and so this is a crisis. England in a crisis of defeat. So under that crisis, British Parliament introduced the Montague-Chelmsford reforms. Right? Anything else, dear students? Dear students.
Sir, is there any voter ministry in cabinet ministry?
Huh?
Women. Is there any women ministry in cabinet?
No. Women were not given voting right. See, voting right was also not given to the women. Women was represented under 1917. When Marley came to India, women were represented to give voting right to the women. And also the Ambedkar or the Muslim, the suppressed, oppressed classes also represented to give separate electorates to the suppressed, oppressed classes of Indians also. When Marley came to India, many people are given, women were not given voting right. They were not minister. They were not there. See, till to see women voting right in 1919 Act. Also, the women were not given voting right. Voting right in India is given only to the 14% of the people of India only. 15% of the people of India only. Voting right to the Indians is only education and property right. Property owners only given. Middle class and upper middle class is only given. Lower classes were not given. Adult franchise was not introduced at all even in India. Even women were not given voting right. Women were given only Madras Legislative Council first in 1921, 25, Bombay 29. So up to 27, there were no, the women voting right was not given, and women representatives were not there at all in the Legislative Council. Only in 1927, Madras Legislative Council means MLC, Muthulakshmi Reddy was first woman was elected in the at provincial level or state level. The upper body means Legislative Council, not MLA. They were not MLA. There were no MLAs. Only that is all after 1935 only elections participated by women. See, women were no more given voting right. Voting right were and all contesting elections were given to the women only after 1935. 1927, first time Madras Legislative Assembly chosen Muthulakshmi Reddy for the legislative MLC. First woman, that Muthulakshmi Reddy. So thus there was no woman representative, there was no woman. So this is the constitutional reforms up to 1919. Remaining 1935, we will discuss in the next class. Right? Anything else, dear students? Dear students, anything else? Any doubts? Dear students.
Sir, no doubt, sir.
Right. Time is up. Shall I close? Any doubts?
1 minute, sir.
Yes, you can ask. See, what are the lessons? Next lessons. Tell me first. See, they were not given your book. University is not given a book. So, based on your unit way, I am teaching, giving lecture. See, what are the next units after 7th? Next units, tell me. Yes, you are also, you can entitled to ask doubt also. Ask the doubts. Babu, Narendra.
Sir.
Any doubt? Any doubts?
So what are the round table conference?
That will come later, no? In this unit, it will not come, no? That will come in later.
Okay.
Later discussions. Next classes. Next classes. That will come under next classes. Next 3 classes are there, no? Under that it will come. Right? Right.
Sir, estimates are released from the British government in 1914. In 1914.
1914?
The estimates.
World War
the
I.
estimates, sir. The estimates are
1914,
released.
World War I. 1914 to 1918, World War I. And League of Nations came out after World War I. Versailles Treaty, 1919, 1920. League of Nations formed 1920. League of Nations, 1919, Versailles Treaty. Huh? What is your doubt? Babu,
Any extremists are released from the British government in 1909.
extremists not released. Extremists, see, extremist means they are extreme. Balagangadhar Tilak was only extremely criticized. But terrorists who are used the bombs, those were not released. Extremist means there are two division in the extremists. One
Revolutionary
extremist
and
is who are extremely criticizing people is different. Using a bomb, those are terrorists. Those are called terrorists.
revolutionaries.
Revolutionaries. Those are called revolutionaries. Extremists are released. Extremists are released. Balagadhar Tilak sent to 6 years jail, Mandalay jail and released. Then he became the leader of the Congress. 1916 to 19 and even others also released. Extremists all extremists are militant nationalists, all released. And that Tilak himself is leader of the Indian National Congress from 1916 to up to 1914 he came out, or 1916 to up to his death. Tilak was the leader of the Indian National Congress. After his death, the Mahatma Gandhi became the leader of the Indian National Congress. So extremists were released. Those who used the bomb, guns, and those were not released from the prison. But whoever criticized method of extremism, boycott is a not boycott and burn the foreign, those were released. Those are called extremists or militants. Militant way of protest, that is called a not constitutional method. That is not a begging method, pressurizing method. That those prisoners were released by the British government. Right? Anything else, Babu?
Sir, what was the position of Muslim after the 1909?
Muslims, Hindus are separated, no? By encouraging the Britishers, divide and rule policy followed. Divide and rule policy followed. Thus, see, Minto Marley reform, Minto, 1909, a communal electorates, separate electorates introduced for the Muslims. Thus, this is the first one laying the foundation for the division of India. That is way. This is the Britishers are only created. Of course, there was a conflict or is there in between the culturally Muslims are different, Hindus are different. Of course, cultural difference is there, but they were living together harmoniously. But differentiation is created by the Britishers. Britishers for what? To continue their rule in India. See, when brothers are cooperatively living, then the house will not divide. No, so that is the reason they created divisions within the India. And for what? To continuance of their rule. Not only Muslims, thereafter communal award, round table conference, they were tried to divide the so Hindus into Hindu classes and the lower class of untouchable class of India, SCs and SC classes. Ambedkar represented round table conferences. They were decided to further division, create the further division in India. But that was not worked out. That Gandhiji, Ambedkar came to an agreement. That is the way Hindus were united, but Muslims were separate way. They were able to divide. They were their mechanism is worked out. Muslims and Hindus were divided, and that division continued year after year, and separate electorates continued. Ultimately, it led to the partition of India. Right? Anything else, Babu? Anything else? Right. Next class we will discuss.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.